Okay, here are all my clean parts. This FS-90 is ready to be put together. I'll just show you a couple of them here. Here's what the head looks like now. I didn't remove the valves and do anything with them because I could look in here and see that the valve stems don't look like they really have any carbon buildup on them, and they don't really have any issues there, so I'm not going to mess with those. Here's the timing cover. You can see the bearing's in good shape there. This inner bearing here is good. The timing gear, really nice shape also. The main bearing, very nice. Front bearing also really good. Crankshaft, I dressed that up a little bit here. Got that bearing off and cleaned this up, oiled it up. Piston, it's in really fine shape now. This connecting rod wouldn't even slide on this thing before, so I took that all apart and cleaned it all up. The ring looks really nice, and you can see this doesn't look like it's really got much run time on it at all. The inside of the crankcase here, there's our timing wheel or timing disc. And you can see now how easily that thing spins now. It wouldn't even move before. That thing spins really nicely, so that's good. So basically I just want to kind of show these parts real quick and show that they are in good order and it's ready to be reassembled. I'll start by installing the bearings in the front housing, and as usual I tend to heat this up just a hair. Put a little oil on these bearings to inside the housing here to kind of help facilitate them going in there. Probably don't need a whole lot of heat to get these to drop in, but just something I kind of tend to do anyway. So there's the front. Okay, now that bearing looks like it's fully seated now too, so I ended up not really even needing to use the press on this anyway. I just put it in there and just kind of tapped it in with the mallet, and you can see how freely these bearings, freely that crankshaft moves, so that's good. So I think the next thing I want to do is, because I've done several of these engines before, I think the next thing I want to do is actually mate the engine casing to the front bell, which is going to require me having the piston installed. So let's drop this piston in, but I need to look and make sure I see which side of the connecting rod is chamfered to accept this. Or, yeah, okay, so it looks like that is the side that's chamfered. So a little oil here. Yeah, I should do a little bit of oil in here. Kind of just likewise put a little oil on this guy here. Just make sure everything's got a little bit of lube there. So where's our chamfer again? Things you gotta do is make sure now it's this thing nice and slidey. You gotta make sure it's not like this and touching on that darn drive gear. So I gotta kind of make sure that connecting rod stays forward. I don't really care where the ring gap is, just because it's going to end up having to get reseated anyway. But as long as I kind of know where it is while I'm trying to push it into the groove here. So I'm trying to hold pressure down on the piston, and I hear that it's not contacting that shaft, so I'm just going to kind of hold pressure down on this while I kind of try and use my fingernail to push that groove, or that ring in the groove. And it should eventually here just drop right into that cylinder. It's the theory anyway. I think I have a toothpick here to use. Knowing where the gap is, kind of see if I need to. There we go. Alright, so our piston dropped in there. So now what we need to do is, since I don't have a gasket for this, I'm going to have to make a gasket using Permatex Moto Seal 1 gray gasket maker. I'm going to have to get that, but I want to try and get this connecting rod and the timing shaft lined up so that I can just kind of drop this straight in place. And keep in mind from the earlier video, this portion of the front housing that has this shaped piece here is the bottom. So this is the gasket sealer I use, or gasket maker I use when I don't have a gasket. And I've got this so that it's aligned. So what I'm basically going to do here is, this stuff sets up pretty quick. I'm just going to paint using a toothpick. Paint a coating around here. And I put it on this side because hopefully it'll be less likely to get in the engine. Okay. Alright, I think we're good there. So now, I've already kind of trial fitted this, and we'll see if this will still work out and just drop right in place like it did. And there it did. So now, I'm going to start running these screws in. So I'm not actually setting the timing of this engine. Setting the timing of the engine takes place when you install the back cover with the timing gear. But I found that it's easier to make sure you have this part installed first, and you'll see why here shortly. What I'm going to do is, anything that's squeezed out, I'm just going to make sure I wipe that off real good before it dries. Sets up pretty quick. So the front end is together and now sealed. So if you watched the very first video, I discovered what the reason was for why the valves weren't moving in this engine. And it was because these cam followers were stuck. I've already reinstalled them. And I kind of described in that first video that, you know, they have machined flats on each end that go on the inside, so that as those two pieces push against each other, that's how they slide better, is because of those machined flats. So, just making sure they do move still, and they move freely. Okay, so I don't want them to get stuck again. So next, this timing gear, and then this little counterclockwise thread screw goes in. So what I'm going to do here is, I've already done it once, but I'm going to do it again. You can never have too much oil in these bearings, or in this area of the engine, really. I don't think I really need to do anything, but this screw here actually screws into this thing once it's in there. So I'm just going to drop this in place. Just got to make sure you have your followers in place, obviously, or you're kind of going to have a bad day then. So this is a reverse thread, so I'm going to look like I'm actually unscrewing it when in fact I'm actually screwing it in place. And this is the same screwdriver that I had made a bit thinner to break it loose. Now I'm not going to put any real torque on this thing at all because it really can't back out because this little cover holds it in place. But timing this OS engine relies on this dot right here. That's the timing mark. These that look like dots are actually screws on the other side that hold this gear in place. This is actually the timing dot. So that's going to want to be in a certain orientation. I'll have to quickly check my instructions, either top dead center or at the bottom when this is installed. In fact, there's actually a notch on this ring here too. I don't know if, yeah, you can kind of see it there. There's a notch that indicates the orientation. I was hoping it would actually coincide with this being straight up and down, the slot in there being straight up and down, because it'd make it a lot easier for me to time it. But unfortunately it doesn't look like it is. So what I'm going to end up having to do to set the timing on this engine now is make sure this thing is at top dead center, and you can tell that by the Woodruff key slot needs to be at the bottom here, in line with that. And then I'm pretty sure that it's this hole has to be, or that timing dot has to be at the top. So I'm pretty sure that this engine is timed right now. However, since I didn't have sealer on there, I'm still going to have to seal it up. So that's what the process is going to be, is make sure my crankshaft is in the right orientation, make sure this is in the right orientation, then just mate them together. And that's pretty much as simple as it is as far as timing this engine. Then it's completely done. You don't have to worry about anything else after that.